Good morning, everybody. I'd just kindly ask you to get yourselves settled for the Sports and Rec Committee meeting, 22nd of August. I think the year flies by so quick. Spring is almost in the air. I'd like to welcome the youth councillors, experienced youth councillors, Emma and Emily. And as usual, the meeting is live streamed, so welcome those online. And if we can keep the topic as usual, and feel free to ask any questions as need, and by all means wave your arm out if you think you've lost my sight on that. But I foresee this meeting going reasonably quickly, but last time I said that it was much more exciting. We don't have any apologies come in, correct? And there's no public forum. I'll go for any conflicts of interest in the agenda.
Chairman, I declare an interest in the item relating to the Jackson's Field easement, Network Catering Limited. I'm a member of Network Catering Trust.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Councillor Barker. We'll go on to confirmation of the minutes, and the meeting will follow the order as set out in the papers. Go status. Thank you. And can we have someone second that? Thank you. Second by Stuart Walker, Councillor Walker, and put by Councillor McGurk. Any questions in regards to that? Very straightforward. Go on to status report, which is also. All right, we'll put that. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. We'll go on to status report, pages 16 and 17. So this is on Nelson Marina strategy. Just a quick question. I've got down, Mr. Ward, 24th of March 2016. Should that be 2017? Is that correct?
No, through you, Mr. Chair. The date in the left-hand column there is the date of the original resolution of the committee on this matter.
Okay, so it'll be on the community services. Any questions, Councillor McGurk?
Yeah, I was just wondering how the Marina Advisory Group, how's the reaction to, what's the relationship like with the consultants, SLR? The reason I ask is they do, or I think some of the stakeholders down there did express a view about the consultants. Just wonder if they're working through that.
So through the chair, I haven't had specific feedback on the relationship with SLR, but I have had some very positive feedback in terms of the progress of the group. I think they've made good work. They were appreciative of the support the council has showed through the annual plan, and I believe Mr. Petheram is planning to bring the strategy back in October, November.
Thank you.
I think I'd point out it's been going. What I've seen, and Councillor Rutledge and I've met several times with the chair of that advisory group, and to date been very impressed with, especially the relationship they've had with the various stakeholders. And as you can imagine, it is various, like any organisation and group, various views, etc. But what I've been impressed with is how they've brought them all on board to open discussions very frankly, and they've moved forward really well. But I'm also very keen to hear when it comes to committee next. Councillor Rutledge.
Thank you. Yeah, I echo those sentiments. I think the group's done a great job. Sorry, Chris, can you just confirm the date that this is coming back? Because it says 21st of November, and it was my understanding that it was going to be a lot earlier, so it's good to hear it's October, but that might need to be noted.
So, thank you, Rosie. We're confirmed October? Oh, you will confirm. Sorry. I think I've heard the desire of this committee to see that as soon as possible. So if we can bring it back to October, we will bring it back in October.
Okay, let's hope so. Cheers.
Yeah, no, that would be very good because things are moving really well and before summer is where we're aiming. It's on track very much so, but that would be great. Cheers, Councillor Rutledge. Any other questions on the status report? Thank you. Can I have someone move that we receive the status report? Okay. Councillor McGurk and seconded by Councillor Barker. Thank you. I'll put the motion. Receive. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. So just move on to the Chair's report. There's no written Chair's report, but just a bit of a, as you would have seen, it's sad news to see Pine Tree Colin Meads pass away the other day. He'd been a real stalwart and Kiwi sports person, which have spanned generations, even those who went around to see him play. On a brighter note, it was great to see Trafalgar Centre. I know it's in full bangers at the moment, going ahead of Trafalgar Centre, but it was great to see the Art Expo, and I know a number of you went along to that, and it was very well attended, and it was great to see the Trafalgar Centre as it's been used in the past and also now in the future for many other vital attractions. But the expanse was great, even the sound in there was great, even though it wasn't a sound event, and it was very warm. I think with the new changes they've made in lighting and decoration, it was a lot warmer than I can ever remember in the past, and I was very impressed with that conference area as an area which you enter into. So as a whole, I thought it worked extremely well, and a whole new concept of use. And the other one, just to remind any of you, is that if you haven't signed up for the Masters Games, I challenge you to sign up. There's plenty of events there that's coming up shortly on the 4th to 8th of October, and I think it's mid-September you need to be signed up by. So I'd challenge you to put a team in or enter. I've had to grow this so I can qualify. So let's receive that being as a verbal. So can I have someone move to receive the verbal Chairman's report? Thank you. Councillor Courtney. Can I have someone second that? Thank you, Councillor Walker. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. So we go into the next report for the Brook Valley Holiday Park advice. This is advice that was put to the commercial subcommittee and brought to us, and that's pages 18 to 27. Mr. Ward, do we have a...
I'll speak to this if I may, Mr. Chair. So this committee referred a previous report, which is attached to this report, to the commercial subcommittee, seeking some guidance on the specifics around the maintaining the opening of the Brook Valley Holiday Park, and some other matters that are in public excluded in relation to structural issues. Having considered both of those, the commercial subcommittee has recommended that the Brook Valley Holiday Park should remain open. And really, I think what it comes down to is to give some certainty to both staff and to our community in relation to the status of the camp for this coming summer. We do believe that with a little bit of extra marketing and the time that we've, a little bit of extra time that we've given ourselves, that we should be able to have to build on the opening last year, and we should be able to cater for more campers at the campground this summer. It also gives a clear signal to the community that the campground is open, and once the structural issues are sorted, give some base for certainty for the future. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the report. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Councillor McGurk and then Councillor Walker.
Yeah, just comparing the previous report, I think was the one that came in on to this committee in the end of May, 30th of May, paragraph, I think 6.2. The operational costs to remain open haven't been included in the draft annual plan, and compare that with paragraph 4.5 in the report we're discussing at the moment. Budget's prepared. Do we know what the operational budget is likely to be?
I'll just invite either Mr. Petheram or Ms. Bartlett to the table. I do believe that there has been provision made for operational costs for remaining open, getting the nod from Ms. Bartlett. So I think the annual plan does accommodate the camp being open this year.
Just in light of your comments about the extra marketing and time, so there is an assumption, I suppose, that the operational costs will be slightly higher than previous years?
So I think through the chair, the costs, there are fixed costs, and then there's operational costs related to the number of guests we have. So if it's busy, then we have to put extra cleaning on and so on. But we would expect to see extra revenue in there as well. The marketing will be covered from our marketing budget.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 4.4 talks about appropriate marketing. There's still an element of uncertainty, I think, with generally out there, that whether it is or open or partially or whatever. What steps are being taken to clarify that through comms or whatever?
So through the chair, at this stage of the year, probably the best opportunity is through social media to get the message out there, and through the various camping apps that are available where people share information. It's probably too late to get the information into print. You know, that has been done, but certainly we can work with the eyesight to make sure that people are aware that the camp is very much open, and as I said, social media promoting to more casual campers as well, that there's an opportunity there.
Mr. Chair, just a minor point, but I'm just interested. 4.1.7 on page 23, it says here that the as from the 7th of February, security was returned to just their nightly routine visits. What does that consist of? I was just interested to know.
Through the chair, I think we canvassed the subject last time round in relation to the level of security that was provided. We have an obligation as an employer of the campground manager there to ensure her health and safety, and faced with uncertainty over the summer period, there was quite a strong security presence over that period, and I think visits through the night as well where required. We'll review that in terms of the coming year to ensure that we've got the correct balance between ensuring the health and safety of our employee, but also not having and also having a welcoming campground for visitors that isn't overly intrusive.
Thank you for that. Mr. Chair, I was just sort of saying, nightly routine visits. I just was interested to know just how many there would be. That was all. A number. Is it 3 or 4 a night, or is it a couple a night, 1 a night? I don't need to know it right now.
We'll really find that information for you, Councillor. We can provide that.
On a similar topic to Councillor Courtney, I guess I just wondered if the security could be reviewed alongside looking at security for Freedom Camping, because obviously there'll be quite an investment in terms of security of other Freedom Camping sites, so whether that could be incorporated into that. I understand that there's a staff member working up there, but it might be that the costs can be shared amongst other areas which have to have security as well.
If I could just briefly comment on that through you, Mr. Chair. I think the Freedom Camping is much more about enforcement staff going around rather than security, so I think the two are separate, but we'll certainly look for opportunities in that space.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'd probably just repeat that the marketing is pretty vital for what I see. And Mr. Ward, do we have a web page? I know when in the past we had a bit of a search for it, it wasn't at the stage of being marketed. We have a page that people can go to, or at least search engines will link to.
We do have a page on our own website, but I think we need to be more proactive with our marketing for this coming season.
Very good. No more questions there. Would someone care to move that we receive the report? Thank you, Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Fulton. And is that to also move the recommendation? Thank you. Do we have a seconder? That was a seconder. Any debate on the motion in front of us? No, very good. I'll put that in the motion. Sorry, Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's a good time to reflect, actually. When one looks back at the history of this particular camp, it commenced off in the time when council was made up of departments, and each department was almost autonomous. This was the Works Department motor camp. Okay. The Maitai was the Parks and Recreation, or the Parks and Recreation motor camp. And the Tuna Beach Holiday Park was the Sands Reserve. So they were three separate, and they were run separately. In the 1980s, it was decided that there was a more efficient way of doing things, and the three camps came under the control of the Tuna Beach Holiday Park for a time, and they stayed that way. And they came under the control of them because they were under council. They were not running profitably. They were not making a return. So they thought a more efficient way to do it was to have it all under one organisation, which it did. And that lasted that way until about 5 or 6 years ago, when the conditions and the red tape that applied to the Brook camp, which hadn't had the money poured into it, meant that to comply with the red tape, and particularly the grey water and other problems that were associated with the semi-permanents who were living there, meant that the Tuna Beach Holiday Park decided it would not do it any longer, and it handed it back to council under council control. It did then, and it still does, as does the holiday park at Tahuna. It provides a valuable service in many ways. It's a fantastic holiday spot in a time of the history of our country when motor camp activity is increasing again, because people are enjoying the holidays in their own country. But it also provided that very much needed accommodation problem for those who needed housing help. And both the camps have been very valuable in looking after the needs of people who can't afford, or in some cases don't want to live in the normal residential setup. So I think it's appropriate to support this recommendation that it carry on as it is at the moment until such time as there is a review. And I was just reflecting rather than speaking for or against, but I think it's appropriate.
No, thank you, Councillor Barker, because your insight and knowledge here would be greatly helpful for today and ongoing decisions as we move forward with the camps. So I really greatly appreciate, especially given the background on that. So no more debate. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. So move on to number 9 of our reports, and this is the Saxon Creek Easements and Network Tasman Limited.
Move back in the panel, Chair.
No, I think
An interest I declared earlier.
we'll make sure we grab you again when we.
I don't think I need to walk the room.
Okay. So it's pages 28 to 35.
So moved.
Cheers. Second that. Very good. So, welcome. That was, sorry, who seconded that? That was, we had Stuart and McGurk. Thank you. Was it Mike? We left more Mike out in the cold. It's correct that Mike Rutledge. Sorry,
Good morning, councillors. I think you have a A3 handout in front of you, just to try and set out where the various easements are that are mentioned in the report. So if I perhaps just step through and give you a bit of a background of what we're asking here, what we're referring to. So there's 3 easements required due to the work being done on Saxton Creek, which I'm sure you're all familiar with the creek upgrade. The one that's labelled number 1 on your map there is the larger of the three. It's in favour of, it's an easement engrossed to Network Tasman so that they can service that new subdivision that, that you can see being built there at the end of Dayland Drive. It's underground and it connects into Saxton Field itself. At number 2, there's 2 short pieces of cable. The engineers tell me that they're both existing lines. One will go underground under the stream, and that's the shorter length, the one more to the north on your diagram, I guess, the shorter piece at number 2. The longer red line at number 2 is an existing overhead power line that needs to stay overhead as a power line, unfortunately. And then at number 3, there's an easement in favour of 187 and 205 Champion Road in order to provide electricity to those residential properties, and the cable there is under a bridge that's built over that's going to be built over the stream. That's really all I was intending to tell you today, unless you have questions about any of the technicality.
I'm sure we will. Thank you, Peter. Councillor McGurk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just probably a point of clarification. In terms of easement 1, 2 questions. First one, is that a underground or goes under the creek, that particular easement? Or is there an overhead?
That, through Mr. Chair, that is underground. It goes under the creek bed itself.
And the boundary between, I think, is it F and D, whereabouts is that? Is that in the middle of the creek or? B's the short length, C's the intersection between D and B. But I'm just wondering where the boundary is between D and F.
So, through you, Mr. Chair, I believe that the property boundary is the white line that is following the course of the stream, largely. Once the development is complete, there will be an Esplanade Reserve vested in the council that runs along the banks of the stream and that boundary line.
Yep.
And does that clarify your question or
I
not?
think it does. I'm
Yeah.
just looking at that thick, if I look at page 33, the thicker sort of off-white line that runs along the boundary of Saxon Creek. So F goes from that line north to the fixed point.
That is true.
Right, yes. And that's underground.
It is underground.
And underwater. And just a point of clarification, the number 2, the shorter of those 2 easements, I think that is underground as well?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. That one is underground.
Yep, that's it.
Any more questions for Peter? Very good. So we've received the report. We're ready to move into recommendation. So we've got several here. I'm happy to move these as a whole. Anyone got any objection? Sorry, I was, so you're happy? Everyone's happy to capture those as a whole. I just need someone to move that we receive.
Councillor Outridge did that.
So we've received the report, but the recommendation in front of us.
So if the mover and the seconder are happy to receive, to move all in block, then I've got Councillor Rutledge as mover and Councillor McGurk as seconder.
Thank you. Any debate on the motion in front of us? Very straightforward, very good. I'll put that in the motion that we receive this recommendation. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Very good. So that moves us that completes the public agenda. I'll just check, Mr. Ward, that's correct. Yes, we're through that, correct. So this concludes the business in the public agenda. We're now going to move into public excluded. Recommendation as in your table. Can I have someone move that we go into public excluded? Thank you, Councillor Walker. Can I have someone second that? Councillor Fulton. Any debate? Very good. I'll put the motion that we go into public excluded as outlined. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. And I'd just like to thank the youth councillors Emily and Emma once again. Very good. business, so we need to come back into public. Is that correct? So we're in public, so that concludes the business for today. Thank you for your input there. We do have a meeting at 1:30, a joint for those on a joint committee. That's 1:30, correct? Not 1 o'clock. That's right. I've got down 1:30. We'll go. It's 1:30 unless this comes out any different. Now, am I correct in saying there is no lunch?